ado, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Michelle, and then she's going to hand it off to our family moderators. So, hi everyone, my name is Megan. I'm a student orientation coordinator for the orientation office, and I work primarily with the family program, and we're so excited that you're here. And now I'm going to hand it off to my partner, Michelle.
Hi everyone. Unfortunately, my camera's not working right now, but I'm here. I am another family student orientation coordinator, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm mainly going to be monitoring the chat and answering any questions that are put in there in case they fly by the conversation happening.
Thank you, Michelle. And now I'm going to hand it off to our three family moderators. Frances, can I start with you?
Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Frances Adakwa, and I am a moderator for BSU Family Page, and I'm honored to be here.
Excited to have you. Thank you, Frances. Lynn, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Lynn Garcia. My daughter Stephanie has just graduated from Bridgewater, and I'm also a Bridgewater alum from 1988. I've been a moderator for the last 2.5 years or so, and I'm also a family ambassador. So I've helped families for the past 5 years here at Bridgewater. So I'm excited about this presentation this evening.
We're excited to have you. Thank you, Lynn. And last but never least, I'm going to hand it off to Robin.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm the newest moderator, but I've been a part of the BSU family. I've had both a transfer student that graduated in 2018 and my current student that's going to be a junior this year, majoring in elementary ed. So I've been part of the parent page for about the last 2 years and became a moderator this year. So I guess this is my first official capacity. Thank you.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you, Robin. And now I'm going to hand it off to our Fearless leader, Gail.
I don't know about that, Megan, but thank you. I'm Gail DeHulis. I'm the Assistant Director for New Student and Family Programs, which has recently merged to become part of the Center for Student Engagement. So we're really excited about that new vision for the division for supporting student engagement, and also the important foundation that family members provide them. I have been at the college for 24 years, and in most of those years, I have done I was in some type of a role where I've had the privilege of working with family members, working on communication, outreach, supporting their experience so that, they can be strong supporters for their students. So really excited to be here. I also have 2 college graduates myself, so been there, done that. So I'm hoping I can share both perspectives.
Thank you, Gail. And now I'm going to send it off to Bailey, our student.
Hi, so my name is Bailey. I am a rising junior, so I will be a junior in the fall. I am a communications major with a concentration in public relations, and I have a double minor. Just a kind of a little brief into me. On campus, I definitely participate in a lot between, I'm an orientation leader. That's kind of how my role right now. But I also am a resident assistant. I'm in Greek life. Luckily enough, I love Greek life. I think Lynn and Fran, both your daughters, are like some of my closest friends in Greek life, so we love it. What else am I? So yeah, I definitely do a lot at BSU. I have a lot of different perspective. I've been at the school for 2 years now. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here with you guys.
Well, very excited to have you all here. I just want to reiterate that anyone's more than welcome to turn their camera on to ask a question. If that does happen, we ask that everyone else stays muted so the question can be answered. Or if you don't feel comfortable asking a question with your camera on, you're more than welcome to ask it in the chat feature. I will moderate it to our moderators and we'll get an answer. So I'm going to kick it off with a few questions to kind of get the nerves out, and then we'll get started. So to our student, to Gail, our faculty team member and our 3 family moderators, what is the best piece of advice that you gave your students? And Bailey, what is the best piece of advice that your parents gave you when your student was going off to college? And anyone's more than welcome to start.
I'll go first. One thing that I told her was this was the time to really branch out, time to investigate what's out there, to join clubs, to kind of decide if she likes something, to stay with it, to give it a chance too, for that matter. And this was also the time to make friends and just approach people as opposed to just kind of staying in your room and not really figuring out what to do. I really want her to just trying to branch out a little bit, and she definitely did. So.
I think
mine's the same thing. I told my daughter Kiana that if she ever had a problem, please don't be nervous to ask for help. If it was for the RAs or your professors or anybody, just don't be afraid to ask for help. And I guess it worked. But I was that nervous parent waiting for that telephone call, though.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the advice I give was that they need to speak up for themselves, to not be shy. It's a no if you don't ask the question or ask for whatever it is that you're going to ask for. And so you need to make it known, even if you have a problem with a professor or you're struggling in class, to speak up for yourself, because we as parents can no longer do that for them, and need to equip them with those tools. And you know, to Francis's and Lynn's is to get out and get involved. I recognize this year might be a little bit different, but there's still ways while social distancing. I'm sure the school is coming up with all kinds of creative, fun things to do. So I would just tell them to get as involved as they can.
If I can jump in next, I think something that my parents always taught me, specifically my dad, he's like 10 feet away, so he's probably going to start laughing at me. But is to just be brave, I think, and that can translate to a lot of different things. For me, I think it translated into doing what I wanted to do as a student and not worrying about what my friend group thought of me, and not worrying about how it would affect those relationships in some way. And what I mean by that is I went out for, and that's something that I was really excited to do. It's something I was really looking forward to. But out of my friend group, I was the only one. So I was like, it was me and like 10 girls that I met in my hall freshman year. And I was the only one. And it was kind of weird because I would go through recruitment by myself and I went through the entire kind of experience by myself. But it was something that I wanted to do, and I've grown so much because of it. So it doesn't just have to be Greek life. Like if they want to join a club, or if they want to go out for the honors program, or if they just want to experience something, you know, whatever it is, definitely being brave and pushing yourself to do that is one of the best things, because I always say it, BSU is a place of opportunity, and I've grown a million times into a new person just in my 2 years. So I think if I have any advice to a BSU Bear, or if parents or anyone was trying to give advice to their student, I definitely would say, you know, making sure that they follow through with what they want to do as students.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I had my 2 boys are 7 years apart, so I feel like I got a redo almost from the first to the second. And I think even his older brother would say, you know, the 4 years go by so fast. And so really like paying attention to and really thinking about what your goals are, you know, enjoy the experience. It's the means to the end. So kind of be in the present and keep your eyes open for opportunity. Really try to work on, you know, a plan. And I don't think that happens the first semester, but I will tell you, you will see growth by leaps and bounds, you know, from one semester to the next, 1 year to the next. So it does ultimately happen. And I think that that's where, as a parent, I felt like that's where I was able to give more of that coaching. Okay, you got through your first your semester, you actually approved that you can do college level work. Now let's get on to, maybe thinking about what that major is going to be. And, so just kind of that trajectory as they grow and move through this journey and this process. And really, getting them to think about, they don't have to be there anymore. This is not K through 12. They're choosing to be there. And I actually reminded both of my boys of that. So to really appreciate the opportunity that they're in the moment that they're in.
Gail, to piggyback on what you were saying, if I could just jump in one more, something that you just said really sparked something in what I was going to mention is that having those hard conversations or even easy conversations about what is school like, or, how did you do in something? What I found worked so well was to kind of look at Facebook, look at Instagram, be parts as a parent of those other groups. So I would just send like little quick text messages out to my daughter and just say, hey, did you notice this is going on campus, or that's happening, as opposed to, are you going to this? Because then it sounds like a directive. It sounds like I'm going to be disappointed in you if you're choosing to not do something that I'm suggesting. But if I just say, hey, this looks so cool, I know you love this, like, that's awesome. Like, oh, that, they're going to have a cookie truck on campus or something, or, they're going to, have bingo night. Did you know you could win like different things from Bridgewater at bingo? How cool is that? As opposed to, are you going? Are you leaving your room? Like something like that. So, and I think so much of it is just having that open line of communication all the time. Knowing that, at any point, my daughter could text me, FaceTime me, whatever it was. And having that open line meant if she wanted to discuss something light, it was light. If it was something like, oh my goodness, I'm worried about a grade, or, a roommate, something, which really never came up, but, we have that open line of communication. So I think as parents, that's something that, we want to make sure that our students have that communication ability with us, and they want to communicate and have that desire, and the door's always open.
I think, Lynn, at first, what you just said about kind of putting out there, oh, did you see that they're having bingo night, or they're having this? Because I did the same thing. And you can find it on the BSU page, what's going on, involvement network, what's going on for the week. And I kind of just, because I knew she wasn't looking, like, did you know? And she loves bingo. And when we talk bingo, we're not talking small bingo. We're talking big TV bingo.
Yes,
like
huge.
These kids love bingo. And you can social distance bingo. But yeah, just kind of putting out the tidbit, like, did you know that the clubs and stuff are going to be out, on the quad? Do you know that this is going on? Kind of like little hints, but not pushing, because they miss a lot. There's so much. They're overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think those are excellent pieces of advice. So thank you so much. Another question that I have for you all is, what is an important information that you taught your student before they were going off to school? So that could be just teaching them how whites don't go in with the colors, or that you have to use like a baking sheet when you use cookies, when you want to bake cookies. Anything important like that you wanted to make sure your student knew before they were going off to college. And again, anyone's more than welcome to take it.
Hi. So I taught my daughter a long time ago how to do her laundry. I don't think it worked because she brought it back on the weekends, but that was one thing I told her. I says, I want you to be able to do these things on yourself. So I'm going to prepare you for certain steps. It's going to be tough and it's going to be difficult, but at least if you do happen to make a mistake, at least I'm here to help you and guide you and prepare you for it, so you won't make that second mistake again. So that's what I did.
One thing I focused on was money. From a young age, I made sure that my daughter had a checking account and an ATM card, and availability to the money that she needed to kind of manage. And it's real easy for our students to just call us up and say, hey, can you transfer me some money? But what I tried to do was make it so she was the responsible person. So I wasn't just taking money and putting that on her Connect card Even though I would know, or she would tell me, I would make it so she had to request money from me. And Bridgewater has a great way of doing that, where they can actually send you a little email and it says, I'm a starving student. I need money put on my Connect card. So it's a cute email that a parent would receive. But just money overall, having them have the ATM cards, having them know how much money they can really kind of budget and deal with, and not be hitting the Dunkin' Donuts every single day. If they only have $20, then it's not time to do that. If they have to space that money out for the whole semester, they have to realize, okay, I can have Dunkin' Donuts on Friday mornings, but I can't have it every single day. And mommy and daddy is not going to just keep transferring money over, unless that's something that you've done, but it's not something that, I wanted my daughter to realize that she had to look at the money as a whole. So, and that applied to even the Connect card for her meal plan as well. So how many meal swipes do you have? How many dining dollars do you have? If you are approaching the end of the semester and you still have tons of dining dollars, then try and eat there more than the meal swipes, or the opposite too. So kind of balance out those, and even check emails. She has to be the responsible person. And I know it's so hard that, we're trying to make sure that our students are the ones that are checking emails and are being responsible and know when bills are due. But, I read this book once that said, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And it was one of my favorite books because it was just so eye-opening to say that I'm not just going through the motions every single day, telling, my child what to do. I'm preparing them for the world. So if you can do that with the money part of it, or having them check emails and just be responsible, then they grow dramatically.
Another thing I did is I had her, we did like a little tour around campus. I know we probably can't do that now, but just look at her surroundings. BU has awesome shuttles. They have the MBTA, which is right on campus, which was great. So, for example, Kiana had some classes that she had to go into Boston. So it's nice that she had her classmates get on the MBTA, but they didn't know how to do that. So it was like, what stop do you get off? Oh, where do you go? The red line, what? So that was another thing I taught her to do, the red line, transportation, even Uber, set that up on her phone too.
Definitely, I think a lot of you from the comments on the parent page, they need to read their emails. They need to keep up with the communication, or they're gonna miss something.
As a BSU student, I can't say enough how important it is to make sure you're checking your email every day, if not weekly, especially over the summer with having to do orientation a little differently than how we would have to usually do it. You probably saw me snapping with my mic off because I didn't want to hurt everyone's ears, but it's very, very true. Just jumping off of that point, specifically Robin's point. Definitely getting into the headspace of checking your email. Checking your BSU apps, I think, across the board as often as you can, whether it be Blackboard, which your students might know about. Blackboard is like our online virtual classroom app that we use to check grades, check assignments and stuff. Just being aware of your online presence with Blackboard and your email, so you don't miss anything from a professor, is going to be super important.
Bailey, can I ask, did you have to learn that over time? When did that click for you? Because I know that high school students at this point, many of the students are just wrapping up high school. And that wasn't something they necessarily had to do. And this becomes we drill it home anyway, in every way we can in all our messages. So what was it that clicked for you, that advice that maybe you could give to the parents in this group to help them coach and support their student without sounding like they're nagging, which then works against what we're hoping that they'll do?
100%. So I actually learned by failing, not failing a class or anything. I learned by failing to follow through at one point. So for instance, I missed a discussion post, and I went to my professor and I was like, hey, I missed a discussion post. And they were like, well, did you check Blackboard? And I was like, oh, you know what I mean? So I think that's another part of transitioning to college, is that, you know, you're not going to get everything right away, and that's totally fine. And you're going to make a few mistakes at first, but learning to come back from those mistakes and how you approach those mistakes, you know, that's how you're going to be able to move forward and, you know, be the best. So I think that was something that my parents, for me, my parents, like, they've always been there, and they've always been my biggest supporters, and I'm so thankful for that. But a lot of the times too, they kind of let me spread my wings and try and fly and, you know, do the whole thing. And sometimes did I trip and fall and, you know, do the whole 9 yards? Yes, of course. But I think for me, coming back from those mistakes is where I really learned how to best apply myself and check my Blackboard stream every single day, or as often as I could. So I think part of it is, I think it's definitely, I mean, I'm not a parent, you know, so I can't really speak for it. And I don't have a student in college or student in high school, so I can't speak from that perspective. But I think for me, as someone who's learned, I think it's definitely a challenge to find the balance of, hey, you're going to bingo, right? Are you getting out into the campus community? Are you doing some things? Are you having fun? And also being like, taking a step back and letting them figure it out for themselves. So I definitely applaud all the people out there who have to find the balance, all of you really, who have to find the balance between everything, because I definitely feel like it could be difficult at times.
And students are very different. I have two very different girls. So as Bailey said, sometimes you need to let them fall and pick themselves up. And no matter what you say, my older daughter never believes me, even though I try to coach. And you need to ask, like I said, ask the question anyway. It's a no if you don't ask the question. If you have a question about your grade, or if you don't see professors, there's no office hours posted, or they're all taken, they don't know you need an office hour if you don't speak up. But one daughter thinks I'm wrong, and my daughter currently there tends to listen more and speaks up and handles the coaching a little better. Like, maybe mom does know what she's talking about sometimes, but ultimately it's up to them. They're gonna crawl and walk and fall and pick themselves back up.
I noticed a question circling back around to Lynn. I think you talked about, referenced the talk about finances that you would have with Stephanie.
Mhm.
And I did the same with my boys. And I think that holding them accountable comes from communication and having that conversation about the cost of going to BSU, about the loans that may be taken out to pay for these tuition and fees, talking about some of the incidentals of how much a book's going to cost every semester, how much spending money do you think you're going to need, and then creating a budget. And really, I mean, I think even adults struggle with creating that budget. And so, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of resources and information out there where, students really, high school students and college students really truly need to learn about financial literacy and understanding working, within a budget. All this virtual payment stuff, you never really see the passing of cash or money anymore. And so it's almost like it can be monopoly money out there. So I would have that conversation, with, I especially remember with my younger son, and, he would have to, work over the summer and save X amount of money, because our agreement was, this is how much we can help you. This is what your loans are. This is what we can contribute. We're responsible for the rest. And so that means, you are responsible for saving money to purchase your books. That means that your social expenses are really yours. So do you need to get a job during the semester, maybe, 10 hours a week, to put that extra money in your pocket? So I think to answer that question, it's communication, it's talking about it. There were semesters where he absolutely ran out of money, so talking about maybe the spending that went on, but that is just so important and fruitful. And it's not something they're going to learn overnight. And so it's a really important skill set. It was interesting that my son now, who's 25 years old, he had a conversation with me and just said, Mom, as much as I hated having to talk with you about FAFSA and my loans and how much money I was going to owe and all of that, I just really have come to appreciate the fact that I knew what I was getting into. I knew the investment that I was making dollar-wise, because I see so many of my friends graduating and getting that first bill, and they are shell-shocked. I mean, they're like, how did I accumulate all this debt? And they were honest with, like, their parents never had those conversations with them. And so he actually circled back around and said, you know what, as much as I hated those conversations, I really just appreciate you now, for making me talk about, budget and finances and having an understanding of what this investment was and the cost, the dollar sign around that. So, as much as you can, I mean, it would always start with filling out the FAFSA, because it's really their responsibility to fill out that FAFSA. There's a lot of parents that do it on behalf of their students. So I would encourage you to do it together and really be talking about, this is how much loan debt you have right now, and be thinking about, so that they know. And it is an investment. It doesn't mean don't take loans out. This is an investment in their future, in your future. So I'm not saying that. It's just having an awareness of it. And like Lynn said, Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts adds up. So maybe you're having those conversations. So I think it's a really and very important topic to be covering and supporting your student on throughout the 4 years.
Gail, can I chime in about, you were talking about the FAFSA and how it's so important for the students to fill it out and the parents also to help. I also want to stress that sometimes parents will fill it out freshman year, and in talking to parents, I've heard them say, well, I make too much, so my student, doesn't qualify for any money, or they just qualify to take out a loan and we really don't need it, so I'm just not going to fill that out anymore. What I want to stress is absolutely no matter what, fill it out every single year. That's the only way your student will qualify for a lot of the scholarships at Bridgewater. A FAFSA has to be on record, or the scholarships and your student will not even be considered for a single Bridgewater scholarship. And there are so many scholarships out there. And also, when your student starts applying for a scholarship, even if they don't get it the first year, tell them to apply again and apply to as many as possible. I cannot stress that enough. My daughter tried the first year, didn't get any. She tried the second year, she kept going. And finally, in her last year, she received 2 scholarships. And we were just absolutely thrilled. And that helped tremendously. But if she didn't have the perseverance to keep trying, it would have not worked at all. So it was good. It was very, very good that she was able to do that. So definitely always fill out the FAFSA, even if you feel like it's not going to help, and have them apply for scholarships too. It's a good part to know.
I think another thing, if I could just jump in here, like talking about like finances and stuff, encourage your students to apply for an on-campus job. There are a million, I feel like a million, obviously there isn't a million, but I feel like there's a million opportunities to work on campus and get on-campus experience that you can apply to real world experience. For instance, I work for the marketing team for the university. So I work for, the social media team and producing videos and content. So, and as a PR major, that's something that I can apply to the real world, right? So that's really exciting. And I'm getting paid, and that paycheck, that goes to Friday night ordering from Domino's, to my dorm room, or to my residence hall room, excuse me. But it's like different things like that. I know Fran, Kiana worked at the front desk for CSE. Now it's CSE, back then it was a different office. She worked in I think she worked in like the Academic Achievement Center. I think Steph worked at the front desk of the RCC or RSU as it's now called.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunities to work on campus. It's a great conversation piece. Like it's a great way to connect with other students because you're working like with other students, you know, as you're doing it. You know, if you, there's a lot of different opportunities like that. So yeah, definitely check out maybe getting an on-campus job because it gives you something extra to do and it's a little extra money in your pocket to, you know, order from Domino's like I sometimes do. So, you know, just a thought.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to say something. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
I know a lot of students sometimes they think it's all work study, but this is not. These are some non-work study jobs opportunities out there for you. So don't be discouraged. So there are work study and non-work study jobs out there, and there's a lot of them.
I think those are awesome and excellent points, and I really appreciate everyone giving some feedback, especially in the financial part. Expectations that I set up with my parents was how I was going to handle my finances. So that actually rolls into our next question. So what are some expectations that you set up with your student when they were going off to college? I know that was kind of similar to the important information, but expectations are more so, did you plan on having your son or daughter call you once a week to check in? Or were they going to come home on the weekends? Or were you going to come to campus and check in with them? Were you going to share passcodes to check on grades? Or was that something you were going to leave up to your student because now that they're an adult? Um,
And then my younger one tends to call a little bit more and let me know what's going on. But she's a little bit more involved on campus than the older one was. So she always has something exciting she wants to talk about or tell me. And so just setting those kind of expectations, because sometimes if they get very involved, they'll forget to even let you know they're around.
I had some of those same expectations, but they were kind of the same expectations that I had. I only have Stephanie. I only have one child, so it was pretty easy. She just kind of knew that that's how we communicate. She would text me, she would FaceTime me kind of whenever she knew when I was available. So it was typically at night. She would send me a quick text or something if something was going on. It might be a FaceTime call or something like that. But overall expectations, it was understood that her grades would be a certain level, in terms of, you know, if she was having difficulty, you know, she could tell me, or, you know, she could choose to get extra help. She knew who to ask for if she needed help in any areas. But it was just kind of an understanding that we had regarding grades, regarding just overall expectations. But there was nothing that I specifically had a major conversation over. It was just understood with us.
And it was the same thing with me with Kiana. We're close anyway, so I think if she didn't want to talk to me about something, she had her older sister, so she could like send her a message if she thought it was like too late. I don't want to send a message or FaceTime mom about this. She can always reach out to her sister who could help her also. But the main thing, I didn't want to put too much pressure on her because this is their college year and it's stressful enough, but she did know that the most important thing was her grade. If it wasn't psychology and it was something that she really wasn't interested in, wanted to change her with your advisor, be able to talk about it, but don't get too far out that you can't get your grades back up. So that was the most important things.
I do, I do want to, share with families that, that if your students' grades in high school may be different in college. And for my sons, I absolutely, it was more about the effort they put in. And so it was less about the grade. And so it's not that I wanted them to get, just shoot for C's or and whatever. It was more of, I knew that the work was going to be a lot harder than high school. And I actually worried a little bit about whether or not they were going to be ready for the rigors of college study. So I think, in a way too, they actually had questions in their own minds, and they really kind of buckled down, and really worked and studied, and put the effort in. I do remember the time my son came to me and said, "Hey, Mom, I want to take this professor. Everything I've heard about him is I'd be lucky to get a C, but he's one of the most popular professors amongst all economic majors, because they say they got their worst grade from him in college, but they absolutely learned the most." And he wanted to know if I'd be okay if he took the class and got a C or got a D. And I was just like, wow, Bradley, you're growing up. It's like, if you're willing to take that class and because of what you're going to learn, and you're not so worried about the letter grade, and you're going to give it your all, you go for it. So just know, I mean, that it's a different from high school. And so that A that sometimes they may have gotten because they talked their teacher into giving them extra credit, or some of that stuff that happens in high school doesn't exist in college. And sometimes it can just be 2 or 3 grades that actually make your grade. So it's really knowing that it can be a little different, and just really, if they do begin to struggle, really supporting them and encouraging them to get the help and the resources that they need, to recover. So I hope that helps. I mean, I and they both did really, really well, but I think it was it was less about an expectation of the A. It was the expectation of the effort, I guess is what I'm saying. And I hope that helps.
You talked about expectations. That was great, Gail. I wholeheartedly agree. We know that there's rate your professor on there. My daughter's asked as well, like, oh, there's this, this fits into my class schedule, but, each person learns differently. And so what one professor, isn't good for one student might be good for expectations as we're moving from parent to coach for them is that we're not texting them every minute of the day saying, how's it going? Where are you? What are you doing now? Grow into the adults that they need to be. And so let me there. And, your children, some are going to communicate more often than others are going to communicate with you, but not to be constantly hounding them because they need their time to find their way around campus and their social and school.
Oh, Robin, I think you might have muted yourself.
Oh, did I just say that all with on mute?
We got up to the point with the expectations at the end, and then I think you accidentally muted yourself. So if you don't mind repeating yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So the expectations, we said what are our expectations from them, but the student's expectation is that mom and dad aren't going to hover. You're not going to, in the advent of social media and texting, not to text every 2 seconds, like, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Especially first day, that first week that they're there, being worried that, are they making friends? Are they getting along with their roommate? that kind of thing. So maybe you have more of a touch point. Maybe they check in with you twice that week instead of just once, because you're going to be, you know, excited for them and nervous for them. And so they need to respect that, but they also don't want you constantly texting them while they're trying to go through doing their social and getting acclimated and getting used to classes and getting to bed at a reasonable hour or not reasonable hour. However they are, they need to find their way and not constantly hear the ding of the phone and be like, oh, that's my mother again.
I know I haven't spoken a lot during this, but you just said something that really resonated with me, so I'd love to jump on and say something about that. Something that my mom didn't understand when I first went to college was that sometimes not hearing from me was a good thing, because it meant that I was busy doing things like getting to know people and making friends on my floor, and I wasn't in my room. So don't worry if, I would say, try not to worry too much if your student isn't necessarily texting you every day, because sometimes I was having so much fun that sometimes it would slip my mind to not tell my mom, like, oh, I'm going to the comedian show tonight. So when I called her a day later or 2 days later, I'd tell her and she'd be like, oh, that's why you were kind of not texting me the past few days. And that's great, because I made friends and I got comfortable. And then once that kind of settled down and I had a schedule and I found some friends, of course my mom and I started talking more again. But at first you have so much to explore and kind of figure out that it's okay if those first couple weeks, even though the parents probably want more touch points during the first couple weeks, it's okay if the student doesn't have them, because they might be exploring and meeting people and figuring out what their favorite dining hall is and like reading the syllabus for their class and trying to figure out how that works. So that's just what I wanted to add as to that part.
No, I think those are awesome expectations that a lot of you have suggested to our new family members to set up with their students. And I know making sure that you communicate with one another or letting them grow or talking about classes, I think those are great expectations to have in place. So thank you, everyone. I wanted to open it up for a couple seconds to see if anyone has a question that they'd like to ask. So again, please feel free to turn your microphone on if you feel comfortable, or if not, more than welcome to ask in the chat feature. I'm going to give it a couple seconds just to kind of let some air time.
I did notice a question that
Sure.
was in the chat. By one of the parents asked about something that I had mentioned about where you would find out what some of the activities are that would apply or that would be going on campus. 2 weeks ago, I shared it on our BSU Families page, a link that one of the graduate students for New Student Family Programs developed, and it was just a list of all the different spots that we would see and find information on. So the Office of Student Involvement is a great spot. That typically lists what's going on campus. BSU Athletics would be another great spot. And on BSU Athletics, you could see if some of the games are coming up. And granted, this year might be very different. We don't know that yet. We might know that in a couple hours. But, you know, as of right now, we just don't know exactly what's happening with the athletic department. But, you know, BSU Athletics would share when all the games are happening and what's happening. And so, you know, if you say, hey, I noticed that, you know, a football game's coming up, are you going to that? Or, you know, basketball or tennis or something, whatever would interest your student. What we also found is that there are certain other ones where if you follow some of the clubs on campus, clubs specific to the majors too, you can kind of see what's going on too. And just by simply liking it on Facebook, you get that within your own Facebook feed. But after this ends today, I will reshare it. It's actually pinned to the top on BSU Families, but I will reshare it again so all the new parents can see some of those pages that they can like on either Facebook or Instagram, and for some of the families that follow on Twitter, you get a constant stream on those too.
I also wanted to highlight a point that Robin had made in our chat feature too. Alongside your students are going through an orientation experience called Crimson and White Beginnings. Excuse me, my mind went blank for a second. But we also have we have it set up for family members to go through. So that's a great way to just get acclimated with the departments on campus, to get acclimated to what BSU is all about. Please feel free to access that. I know Gail can talk a little bit more about it, but we're so excited that you're all here. And I also want to highlight that your students did get an email regarding the town hall meeting that will be taking place tomorrow. And information was sent out to parents that will be where answers will be, questions will be answered. So please feel free to join and ask any questions that you like. And again, I'm going to direct more about the town hall and Crimson and White Beginnings to, again, my fearless leader, Gail.
Yes, so Crimson and White Beginnings is one of our resolutions to this whole COVID issue. Silver lining though, we have been wanting to get this platform for our students and families for 5 years. So I'm really very excited about it. It's a wonderful way to put together lots of information that is written by and shared by so many different departments and resources that are supporting your student and your student's success. And what I like about it is like a virtual folder. You can go back to it as many times as you want. You can click on a particular chapter, and it's not about really trying to absorb everything on Crimson and White Beginnings. And I would even, offer that advice to your students. It's more about knowing, oh yeah, I remember that was talked about in Crimson and White Beginnings. I can go on there and get that answer, and using it as an ongoing resource. So I hope you find it useful and helpful. Of course, we would have wanted an in-person. We love to see your smiling faces, shake your hands, meet your students. We're social creatures, so we are missing that. But this was the best case scenario, we thought, to be able to give you, it's a lot of the nuts and bolts of, a lot of those Maslow questions you have, how will they eat? How much is it going to cost? Is it safe? What, all of that. So I think it will put you at ease for a lot of those things, and at least put you in touch and your student in touch with the department and the resources where they can get more information. I know that Megan and Michelle are both working with a team of 4 other student orientation coordinators to create an experience in August, Crimson and White Days, that your student will attend. That program is for them. Again, another program that we were hoping would be on campus, but they're working really hard to make it creative. It's not going to be like Crimson and White Beginnings, nuts and bolty. It's more about getting them connected to different areas that might interest them. So they're working really hard to create an experience that, students can walk away from and hopefully make a connection as they participate. Tomorrow's town hall meeting is for new family members and new students and their families first, because we realize that although returning families and students have many questions as well, we know that, your questions and needs are a little different and unique. So the decision was made to kind of section out, new students and then returning students. So I'm hoping tomorrow, given the panel, if you can join us, I think that there's going to be a lot of great, wisdom and information provided there. I hope a lot of reassurance. I hope that families and students will walk away with some reassurance. We're doing this is what we're trying to do is, make you feel connected, make sure that, you and your student know that there's support out there for you, and that there's so many people, so many departments, so many staff members, so many peers, their own peers, the orientation team, Megan and Michelle and Bailey, that are really, rooting for them to succeed here at Bridgewater, to connect and to thrive. So they're not here alone. It takes a village. And I think BSU is an awesome village. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Gail. It does. Just because we're getting close to our ending time, I'm going to ask that our family moderators, Gail, and our student, Bailey, give one piece of advice. So, like, what's one word that you would say to your student when they're going into BSU for the first time? Either take a deep breath or put a smile on your face. Everything's going to be okay. What was the best piece of advice that you think you could give a new family to tell their student? And again, anyone's more than welcome to start this.
I think something that, if I'll start, but something that I really could encourage students to do is to lean on the people and the offices and everyone at BSU who is there to help you succeed. So I know as an orientation leader, we've been doing different reach outs to different students and like writing letters to students, or having these pause sessions, which you might have heard about your student going through, or advising, or I think that if I know it's impossible to be like, don't be scared, because that's not a real thing that you can do. Like, that's not a real emotion, because like I said it in the group page just now as Gail was giving her few thoughts just now, that like I refused to get out of the car my orientation. Like, we drove up to Shea Durgan, and the orientation leader in the red polo, who I didn't know I was going to be that person in a year from that moment, but at 18 I was like, don't want to do it, not going to do it, don't want to do it. Like, I was so nervous. And getting out of that car and going to orientation and meeting other communication majors, meeting other people. I met my best friend and my first year roommate at orientation. We were at luckily enough, I think just trusting the process and leaning on people and not being afraid to ask for help. That's I think if I could sum all of what I'm saying right now into one piece of advice, don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to tell your students to ask for help, because being vulnerable is probably the best chance you'll have at growth, no matter what you go through. And being vulnerable and being okay with, like, I don't know what's always going on, going to your RAs, or going to your orientation leader, going to your professor, or going to, different offices, whatever it is, like, asking for help is something that I encourage everyone to do, no matter what you're going through. So that's my 2 cents, if I could say anything, as a current BSU Bear, who was a first year not even that long ago. So yeah, thanks.
Well, I like to say something. I don't think I mentioned it, but I'm also a BSU Bear student, honorary student. So Bailey, that is excellent information, because as an honorary student, I was so nervous too. I was like, okay, I'm that old lady, so how am I going to go up there and ask, hey, which way do you go? Or where's the ladies' room? Or, am I in the right building? And my daughter just said, Mom, do what you told me. It's okay to ask a question. It'll be all right. And you have so much support. And believe it or not, just look around. Someone will notice that you're having a hard time or you're lost, and they'll come out and help you. And that is so true. The kids they were so supportive of me, if I went the wrong way, they were like, okay, no, Mrs. Adakwa, it's that way, you missed the class, or you're in the wrong class, Mrs. Adakwa. Oops. So, but that's just my advice. It's okay. You have the support, and BSU is your family. You do well.
For me, the best thing I could say is this is the time to take chances. This is the time to explore and find something. My daughter did not stay with the same major that she started with, and now she could not be any more excited about the possibilities ahead of her. And everything you do kind of leads you to something else. So because she took so many different chances out there, she has just a wealth of information behind her and experiences. So, she worked for the Bridge Partnership every summer that she was there. She was an orientation leader while she was there. She was able to travel abroad and study in the Azores. She did service trips where she went to Washington, D.C. and Louisiana, to New Orleans. So she has just taken advantage of everything that was out there. If she just sat in her room and said, I'm just here because I'm here for an education and that's it, she would have missed so many opportunities. And then something else that I really feel very, very strongly about is the people at Bridgewater. Like Francis was saying, it's not just the professors. The professors are there to help you and they really want to help you, but there are so many other people there that become mentors. And my daughter can actually say she has, so many different mentors there that have helped her out tremendously. And that's what you need to make, are those connections out there to really figure out kind of where you want to go and what you want to do. And every experience is something that you build upon going forward.
And they don't have to be involved. I think, Francis and Lynn's, both their daughters are very outgoing, at least, and I didn't know them at the beginning. I know Lynn's daughter through my daughter, who's in the same sorority.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter tended to be a little quieter and shy, but she found her way. She knew she wanted to get involved. She knew she wanted Greek life. So she's done that. And your student will find their way. You just need to let them. So I guess the one thing that I would leave them with is check out all the clubs, whether they have it via Zoom this year or they are going to be able to social distance, but be able to chat with people, outside. But check it out, because there really is something for everybody at BSU. And you can get as involved or not involved, but a little involved, because if you sit in your room, it's not going to be a really nice experience. And if you're going to do that, you might as well commute. I mean, being on campus really, it gives them time to be on their own and to start their trek into adulthood without having us smother them. And when they're home, they don't have that. I know for me, my daughter is over the moon that they're going to be allowed to be on campus. She can't wait to move back in. So, think about that when you're making your decisions. I know the town hall is tomorrow, but the experience of them being on campus, I think they'll still be valuable regardless of how it looks for the fall. They will still learn the lessons that our three daughters have learned, and they will make friends. I'm positive. I having been a part of BSU for the last couple of years, I know they're working on things because they don't want these semi-adults to be isolated even on campus. So I take that and think about it when you and your student are making the decision whether to be on campus or not.
I also want to mention something, and Bailey, I think you might know this also, is I know we have the BSU family parent page, but the students, we also have pages also. So I would mention that they join that, because there's a lot of information there that even the school, if they had any question, the school would get in touch with them. And also, if there's books or something like that they wanted to sell or try to buy, I found a lot of that information on the students' page too.
I think I would just end with giving you a piece of advice as parents versus advice you might want to give for your student. And I think that would be just to, you may already be doing this. I had to learn this. I had to learn to listen more and talk less. They sometimes just really want to be a sounding board, and they'll call and it might seem like the world is caving in on them, and they hang up and you're left staring at the ceiling all night and not being able to sleep because you're so worried about them. And then you call them the next morning and they're like, oh, that's nothing, Mom. I went off to this, that, and the other thing. They were over it because they just dumped it all on you. So just know that sometimes your student best, your sons and daughters best, but sometimes it's just let them events that are really, really stressful, but they also have a lot of people around them, and you're one of those to do is to, you know, have your ear and not always looking for advice. Or do you actually want me to give you my perspective on it? And sometimes you just say some advice I kind of had to learn as I transitioned my role from that we're all, and I think it's really interesting, and I wish I kind of knew that my parents changing. I don't know, but so it's kind of cool that parent, you know, to think about early on, you know, how that role and your relationship will be changing and evolving over the next 4 years. It's in a really an exciting time for your relationship with your sons and daughters. So I commend you all and congratulations. You know, your son and daughter are here, you know, in large part because of the support you've given them, you know, your whole life, and that's not going to change. Just, you know, the landscape changes a little bit. So thank you.
Those were excellent pieces of advice. Thank you so much to all three of our family moderators, Robin, Francis, and Lynn. Thank you to our faculty team member, Gail, and our student, Bailey, for joining. We really appreciated everyone joining. I loved hearing everyone's perspective. I do want to remind everyone that these Q&As are going on. We have about a couple of them next week, so please check out our families page or the orientation website. That's where you can access them. We would love for you to see them. And again, if anytime you want to go back to the recordings, you're more than welcome to. So thank you so much.